You bring Bron to the office. I'm Rob Pelinka. Bron, these are your guys. We're going to try to make it work. Because at the end of the day, if y'all make the playoffs, which is, I guess, still a question, there's no team out west that's not going to be at least a little bit afraid of y'all. No team is going to want to see you. And we saw you go on a run last year with this exact roster. We're going to chill. Welcome back to the Kenny Beecham podcast, the NBA trade deadline extravaganza, maybe? One of the weakest trade deadlines we've had in recent history. Now, of course, we're spoiled with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving get traded. We were spoiled with getting a Tyrese Halliburton, Domantas Sabonis swap a few years before. This deadline was nothing compared to those. The headlining names for the 2024 trade deadline: Bojan Bogdanovic, Buddy Hield, PJ Washington. It was a tough one. It was a tough one, which is interesting because that just means to me that a lot of the teams towards the top of the standings, the contending teams, really trust what they have right now. It also tells me that the teams that we saw to be sellers weren't necessarily sellers, and we're going to talk about all of that. Now, I know some of y'all clicked on this video to hear me talk about the Chicago Bulls. For the third year in a row, no trade deadline deal. Now, I dropped an entire video on the Kenny Frio YouTube channel that you might have seen. Hell, it was on the trending page of YouTube. Thank you for that. I did clickbait you a little bit, I'll be honest with you. So I don't want to talk about it too much again. This is what I will say to you, though. A lot of the times I've talked about the Bulls leading up to the trade deadline, it was with the idea like, oh my God, Zach LaVine trades, DeMar DeRozan trades, Alex Caruso trades, and then like Kobe White is a most improved player candidate. That's it. But now that the trade deadline is done and they didn't do anything, there is no real reason for me to come on this podcast and talk about these Chicago Bulls for the rest of the season. Unless they go on a 25-game win streak. Unless they fire a coach or they fire a general. That's it. It's wraps. They've now gone to one of those tier teams. And it hurts my heart because those are my guys. I will be watching the rest of the season. I am not happy with the way things are done. But I will say, This is the nail in the coffin for the Kenny Beecham podcast and the Chicago Bulls. I'll just, again, unless Kobe dropped 82, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. Unless Kobe White dropped 82, we just not going to be chatting Bulls no more. I can't do it. They don't get any more time. Now, the way I usually go into the deadline, first of all, I usually do a stream annually, and this stream was a legendary one. We ended up peaking at like 4,000 live concurrent viewers, which is a lot considering every single podcast and every single NBA creator was doing their own live stream, and we had 4,000 real here, so I appreciate that. But I try to look at the deadline with three different questions in mind. The first one is, did a contending team make themselves the favorite to win a championship? And like I mentioned a couple seconds ago, no real contenders made big moves. Like the Celtics made a couple moves on the 10th and 11th man of their rotation, which might matter or might not matter. But other than that, we saw the Denver Nuggets stand pat. We saw the Clippers stand pat. Most of the teams that we consider to be the higher level contenders kind of chilled this deadline, which is interesting. The second question is, did a team make a long-term commitment to a direction of their franchise? Now, this is normally what we would talk about the Atlanta Hawks or the Chicago Bulls, where they made a decision to maybe sell at the deadline. But obviously, again, we didn't really do that. Maybe that is their long-term commitment to direction, commitment to mediocrity. The Bulls, a lot higher on that level than the Atlanta Hawks. And I'll talk about why I'm low-key okay with the Atlanta Hawks not making deals later in the episode. And then the last question is, did a team that is a borderline contender make moves to make themselves real contenders? And I think the answer to that one is absolutely. The winner of the 2024 trade deadline was the New York Knicks. It hurt my heart, you know. On the other podcast, Numbers on the Board, my cousin, my co-host, Pierre, is a diehard Knicks fan. And throughout the entirety of our show, leading up until maybe the last 2 years, we used to always make fun of each other because both of our teams were awful. You know, we used to just poke fun at one team having 27 wins and the other one having 24. Every year, at least until recently, we had a $250 bet which one of our two teams will be better at the end of the season. The last couple of years, I ain't putting no money on that because the Knicks have genuinely been really good and really well ran, and it's just not normal. The entirety of my lifetime, the Knicks have made weird decision after weird decision, but something happened in 2022. Leon Rose came into the front office and said, hey, I got us. Leon Rose, the guy that was a agent for a very long time in the association. And it's just not really often we see those type of people transition to a position of power like this in an organization and be successful. Well, Leon Rose has done so phenomenal without having a top 10 player. Jalen Brunson, he's playing damn good this season, but I'm not there to put him in the top 10 player. Now, the big deals that they did, this is what they got back. Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic, they sent out Evan Fournier's salary filler, Malachi Flynn's salary filler, Quentin Grimes, a real NBA player, Ryan Arcidiacono hurt my heart. The Villanova boys just lost a guy. And 2 second-round picks and some cash considerations to get Bojan and Alec Burks. It's pretty damn good. You think about the trade they did early in the season to bring in OG Anunoby for RJ Barry, Emmanuel Quickly, pretty damn good. Now, usually, when a team does this type of trade, when a team accumulates this much talent, and right now they are 10 to 11 deep when healthy. Obviously, they got the OG Anunoby injury for the next 3 weeks, which is, if it was going to happen, this is the perfect time because we do have the All-Star break next weekend. Obviously, Julius Randle dislocated his shoulder, and then Mitchell Robinson has been out for some time, but there's rumors that he will be back relatively soon. But barring good health, they have a real legitimate 10 to 11-man rotation of people that I would trust in a playoff series. It's not a lot of teams out there that have that many real players. And the addition of Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic adds another element of people that could put the ball on the floor and create for themselves and create for others. I believe that is one of the archetypes that is missing on a lot of really good contending teams. They traditionally have 1 to 2 to maybe 3 players that could put the ball on the floor, create for themselves and create for others. The Knicks have so many of those people. I mean, I said this when the trade originally went down. Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic, they very well can come to New York and not do anything of significance. But I feel very, very confident that one of those 2 players is going to have one really good playoff game. And I don't mean that they're going to drop 40, right? A really good Alec Burks game. We've seen it right before he got traded from Detroit. He had a 35 piece. He had 5 threes in another game. Like, Alec Burks is a guy, and Knicks fans know this because they had him on the team a few years back. Alec Burks is a very steady player. Now, leading up until the last month or so, he'd been having a really bad shooting year, but he ramped it up a little bit right before the trade. Bojan Bogdanovic is not the same player of 2018 when he was competing with LeBron James when he was a part of the Pacers, but he's one of those players that can come in, he can start, he can come off your bench, and he can be a connecting piece that can hit big shots for you if necessary. But let me get back to the original point. When you put together a team of this caliber with this many really good players, you're typically sacrificing one of 2 things: all of your future flexibility. The Knicks pulled off this trade and we're giving up 2 seconds. They pulled off the OG Anunoby trade. We're giving up a bad first-round pick. They still have all of their future picks. That is unheard of. You're either going to lose all your future flexibility or you're going to lose all of your young talent. Now, you're like, Kenny, whoa, they traded away RJ Barrett, who's 23. They traded away Emmanuel Quickly, who's also like 23. They traded away Obi Toppin, who's relatively young as well. When I talk about young talent, the average age of this team is still about 26 and a half. This is still a relative. Now, all of these people are in their primes, I would say, and they still have things that they could move if necessary, but I don't know how necessary it would be. Like, Leon Rose really has put together a masterclass over these last couple seasons. Guess what? I didn't see it. When they made the acquisition of Jalen Brunson, I was like, that's a very good pickup. But I think when we were doing our offseason greats, I gave him like a B. Yeah, Jalen Brunson's really good. I didn't think he was going to be all NBA good. And he is. They picked up Julius Randle. He had been a guy who had been, can give you a month or 2 months of really good basketball, but he was doing it on a Pelicans team that wasn't very good. And there's a lot of things. All NBA guy. Mitchell Robinson, late draft pick. It goes on and on and on. And this is about to be, and maybe this has happened in my lifetime and I just can't think about it off the top of my head. This team is the perfect case study to the idea of needing the best player in every single playoff series. You look historically about the teams that are considered contenders. Usually they have one of the top 10 players. And in a lot of cases, to win a championship, you need one of the top 5 players. The Knicks are the best constructed talent that I can think of off the top of my mind that doesn't have one of those top 10, top 5 players that I feel confident in. They have great coaching. They have a great lead guard who has shown us last year, first round and second round. And the year before that, when he was with Luka Doncic, that is a real playoff player. 10 players that I trust. Tom Thibodeau does have his hands full because it's not going to be easy to balance out everything to make sure everybody's happy. Again, the silver lining, and of course you don't want to look at injuries this way, is that with OG Anunoby and Julius Randle being out, we're going to see a lot of Bojan Bogdanovic early on. It's not like he's coming into a fully healthy team where we like, is he playing 20 minutes? Is he playing 15? Now he's probably going to get 20 to 30 minutes per game, so he could get that. And I honestly do think winning does a lot. So a guy like Bojan Bogdanovic, who's been a starter for the majority of his career, and he might not be a starter in New York. I mean, he just left the Detroit Pistons. I'm sure he might be a little bit okay with his role going down a little bit because they're gonna win more basketball games in New York. Now again, out of all of the teams in the Eastern Conference that we consider contenders or borderline contenders, they were the most active one, and for good reason. What they gave up doesn't matter in the grand scheme of their now or their future. Quentin Grimes, and as a guy, Quentin Grimes is a guy that I'm excited to see in Detroit. Quentin Grimes is not a player that they felt really confident in. Tom Thibodeau, like he went from a guy that was a starter on the team to coming off the bench to losing his confidence to now gaining it back a little bit. And there have been a lot of rumors about him being traded. The biggest rumor is that they want to see him go out west because they didn't want to face him. He's in the East, but he's on a team that you don't have to worry about anytime soon. So I'm excited for that. If you're a Pistons fan, it was definitely a weird deadline. Were they buying? Were they selling? They were doing a little bit of both. One of those confusing years where Troy Weaver's like, please let me keep my job. And guess what, Pistons fans? You have not looked like the worst team in basketball over the last 2 weeks. You're on a 2-game win streak. And last time I checked, I think you had the 11th ranked offense in the last 2 weeks with like the 27th ranked defense. That's not amazing, but it's not the worst team of all time. Before they made their last couple deals, I was trolling a little bit, but I'm kind of convincing myself with the Pistons. I think it's a team that can end up with 20 wins at the end of the season. You know? Basically, what they need to do is be a little bit worse than 500 the rest of the way. Do we think they could do that? Jaden Ivey playing the game that he's playing. Jalen Duren, I mean, if he's completely healthy, I feel pretty good about his ability to make them better. A 2020 game yesterday. But that's not what we're talking about. They're not a team that we should be chatting with too much. They still do have all of that money come this offseason. So let's building blocks, Detroit. Building blocks. It was definitely interesting because they brought in Simone Fontecchio. They gave up a Washington Wizards second-round pick, which is like the 33rd overall pick in this year's draft, maybe 32nd in this year's draft, to pretty much get his bird rights because he's a restricted free agent. But back to the Knicks. I'm happy for Knicks fans because it's been torture for a better half of 10 to 20 years, and you again have a legitimate team that I think a lot of people are going to go into. The Knicks could match up against almost any team in the Eastern Conference. I'm going to go through the standings really quick. The Knicks at this moment in time are the 4 seed. They're tied with the Bucks, who just lost last night. And they're 2 games outside of the 2 seed. Shout out to the Cavs. I mean, the Cavs just continue to roll. Another one of those high-end teams that didn't do anything. And I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. But I feel like the Knicks can go into almost any series, and there are going to be real people that will pick them. And I don't mean like, the New York is the biggest market in the NBA and I'm a Knicks fan. No, I mean like the unbiased NBA super fans will see them go against the 76ers in this hypothetical playoff that starts today. I'm taking the Knicks in that, right? And then the next round, actually, what's going to be very important for the Knicks, for the Bucks or any team that's in there is staying away from the 4 seed. Try to get as far away as possible to the Boston Celtics. But even then, if they did stay 4 and they beat the 76ers and 1 in the first series, I think there will be people that's like, the Knicks ain't going out without a fight against Boston. Now, Boston does have the top end talent and everything, and barring good health, I think I would still pick the Celtics in that series. But I think there will be people that saying, hey, the Knicks have a real legitimate chance. But every other series, if they match up against the Bucks, they match up against the Cavs, they match up against the Pacers or the Heat or so on and so forth, there are going to be many people that's going to look at that and say, New York Knicks are the team. Now, that's us without knowing exactly how everything is going to look. That's us without knowing if Mitchell Robinson is going to be back, what Julius Randle we get after the shoulder injury, elbow injury on OG Anunoby. I didn't read if it was his shooting arm or not, but a big-ish injury. But it's interesting. Because you go to FanDuel Sportsbook, you talk about the New York Knicks, after all of these trades, they are tied for the 5th highest odds to win an NBA championship. And it got me thinking, when was the last time the Knicks were this high? I couldn't even go back that far. That's how good of an deadline they had and an offseason they had last year. They brought in Dante DiVincenzo for less than the mid-level exception. He's been phenomenal. They traded for Josh Hart and gave up Cam Reddish in a first-round pick to turn into Chris Murray. It's been a masterclass. And right now they are tied with the Phoenix Suns for 5th, only behind the Boston Celtics, the Denver Nuggets, the LA Clippers, and the Milwaukee Bucks. And it's plus 1,600. So it's a gap between the 4th team and the 5th team, but I don't hate those odds, man. I really do not hate those odds. Again, a very good case study on not having a top 10 player and potentially winning a championship. FanDuel is putting the ball in your court for the rest of the NBA season because new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any $5 winning bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Bet on the NBA with a wide range of bets, like quick bets, same game parlays, and player props. Personally, I like taking the money line of one of the bottom feeder teams, especially when they're going against a contender. So visit FanDuel.com/Kenny and make your first bet a layup. Let's talk about some of the teams that did nothing. The Lakers, the Atlanta Hawks, the Golden State Warriors did 0 trades. And in a moment, as we're winding down to 3 o'clock Eastern time, I'm like, man, the Lakers really not doing nothing. Man, the Warriors not even going to try to move the Chris Paul contract. Man, DeJounte Murray is staying pat. And I start to think about the rest of the deals that happen around the deadline. And I start to realize that the market just wasn't anything there. Let's start off with the LA Lakers. And again, in a moment of time, I'm like, man, are we punting a LeBron James season? He's 39 years old. He's good. He's great. But he's not going to get any better. Are we punting a LeBron James season? And then I think about it like, first of all, they didn't have many assets. A 2029 first-round pick, D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, these are your assets. It's kind of tough to figure that out. And from all reports, from things I've read and things I've heard, the Atlanta Hawks were trying to get real players back that they want on their team. So D'Angelo Russell don't really fit with Trae Young. They weren't giving up Austin Reeves in these deals. So yeah, it makes sense that trade kind of fell on his face. The idea of punting a LeBron James season, again, didn't sit right with me in the moment. He's tweeting emojis. He's got the Knicks towel on his back as he goes through the tunnel after beating the Knicks to putting pressure on the LA Lakers. But I understand it. Is that crazy? What player out there do you believe was gonna put the Lakers into real contention? It's hard to find. Now, if you're saying, Kenny, I wanted us to do things around the edges, I respect that. I definitely respect that. But doing the things around the edges like a Dorian Finney-Smith, who was a hot commodity on the market, was not moved. Alex Caruso, who's around the edges, hot commodity, was not moved. And why was that? Well, the Bulls are dumb. And I guess the Brooklyn Nets were not bluffing. I thought they were. Honestly, I read all the reports. Oh, they declined 2 heavily protected first-round picks for DFS. I thought, man, they tripping. That's not true. Well, I guess that's real. So where are the moves around the edges that you wanted to see them do? By them sticking what they have now. They have 3 tradable first-round picks in the offseason. Bron, you bring Bron to the office. I'm Rob Pelinka. I'm role playing as a general manager like I do on my other YouTube channels. Bron, these are your guys. And LeBron actually said this in an interview recently. These are your guys. We're gonna try to make it work. Because at the end of the day, if y'all make the playoffs, which is I guess still a question, there's no team out west that's not gonna be at least a little bit afraid of y'all. No matter how bad of a 3-point shooting team you are, no matter that you don't have a point of attack defender, especially since Jared Vanderbilt is out, no team is going to want to see you. And we saw you go on a run last year with this exact roster. We're going to chill. Now, if you trust me, remember, I did help you get that championship in 2020. If you trust me in the offseason where we have 3 first-round picks, we're going to make it worth your time. Whether that be Trae Young, who everybody's rumoring at this point, and I don't even think it's based in anything. Everybody just wants to see. I don't think it's based in anything other than them being clutch clients. I think they're both clutch. We got 3 tradable first-round picks. Just trust, because DeJounte wasn't coming to LA. Caruso wasn't coming to LA. DFS wasn't coming to LA. And you think about the other trades on the market. I mean, maybe you say, hey, We could have gave up some stuff to get Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic. Maybe the Pistons really valued Quentin Grimes as the young player coming back because the Lakers don't have a young player of Quentin Grimes' value. Maybe you like, hey, we wanted PJ Washington. Well, you were going to give up a 2029 first round pick of PJ Washington. Not many teams are doing that. I mean, there was one team that did that, but not many teams are doing that. So I'm not going to allow myself to be finessed with the idea of making a PJ Washington trade to LA when PJ Washington would help us maybe win some more games, but he's not about to be the determining factor whether we get another banner in LA. So we chilling and pray that LeBron is okay with it because that player option is large and we think he's going to accept it, but he's LeBron. He's been unpredictable his entire career. So we'll see. We'll see. So I'm not too mad about it. I know Lakers fans are because the Lakers fandom is, of course, so accustomed to being in championship contention. You know, that's who it is. I mean, you have LeBron on your team. You're trying to tell them that we're punting the season. I understand the frustration, Lakers fans. Do not get me wrong. I'm in my frustration, too, with my team. But I'm thinking grand scheme, if things work perfectly, and we don't know if they will, grand scheme, let's say you go to the playoffs, you get eliminated by whoever, offseason comes around, and then you use those 3 first-round picks to go get a real player. Are you going to be upset that last year y'all got eliminated in the first round, second round? If you go get a real all-star caliber player with those 3 first-round picks, I doubt you're going to care as much. I doubt you'll care as much. Now, that's, again, assuming that they do that. Next team, Atlanta. The Atlanta Hawks are in the conversation with the Bulls in a lot of people's case, like, oh my God, they didn't do anything. And I don't even think that's apples to oranges to me. That's apples to oranges to me. Because the Atlanta Hawks still have all of the leverage in these conversations. DeJounte Murray just signed an extension. DeAndre Hunter is under contract. I'm pretty sure Clint Capella still got an extra year on his deal. So it's not like it's we trade him right now or we get him, we don't do anything later. These people will be under contract for the rest of the year and plus 4 more. So if the perfect deal wasn't out there for DeJounte Murray, so be it. We'll wait till the offseason. We'll just wait till the offseason. There was no real reason, if you're the Wizards, if with Kyle Kuzma, or you're the Atlanta Hawks with DeJounte Murray, to accept an offer that you don't really like right now. You're up in the asking price. If we trade DeJounte Murray to the Lakers today, we get 1 first-round pick. If they call us again in the offseason, we could get 2 to 3. I think I'm okay. And the Atlanta Hawks had been playing better basketball as of late, so that also probably plays a factor too. A team that has all but cemented themselves as a play-in team. I just think it's not the same as the Bulls who have expiring contracts and old players. These are players that are in their prime or entering their prime under contract for 3 to 4 seasons. There is no real rush other than Atlanta Hawks fans are like, man, we just want to see some change. And again, I understand that, Hawks fans. I understand that. But I don't know how competent your front office is grand scheme, but I think that you could look back on it and say, okay, holding on to DeJounte until June is maybe better. Now I'm seeing a lot of rumors. I mentioned it earlier about the other guard. I don't think it's based in anything. But I guess we'll see. So I'm not even mad about that. I'm not mad about that. There was the rumors about the New Orleans Pelicans wanting in, but then again, the Pelicans said they didn't want to give up CJ McCollum. They didn't want to give up Zion. They didn't want to give up Brandon Ingram. And they didn't want to give up Herb Jones. Who the hell is left? They wanted Clint Capella too. So we got to feel $37 million in salary, and you don't want to give up one of your players that make that? So deal is off. What the heck? Deal is off. So yeah, I think so many general managers out there were playing hardball when they maybe shouldn't have. And I'm not saying that the Pelicans fit that. The idea of DeJounte Murray as the lead guard in New Orleans was interesting to me when I saw it happen. Now, I didn't know if it was a perfect fit, but I was like, okay, I understand at least a little bit why they would be active there. Another team that wasn't active that I was surprised about, the Orlando Magic. Now, I didn't think the Orlando Magic need to swing for the fences, but it's just interesting to see them not go get a guard. They need one. And again, can you look at the market? Maybe the guard wasn't there. Tyus Jones didn't get traded. Monte Morris got traded for a couple seconds and bad pieces at the end of the bench. So I feel like there could have been a guy out there, but maybe, and I'm not in these calls actually. And the last team that didn't do anything, the Warriors. Oops. The Warriors had a lot of rumors. Most of them revolving around Wiggins. The Mavs are interested. This team is interested. I was pretty certain that the Chris Paul contract was going to be moved along with like a Moody or something. Didn't happen. Read a lot of reports. Heard from a guy very close to the Chicago Bulls that they did call about Alex Caruso. They called. And the offer wasn't that bad. And the Bulls said, Can you give us your second best player, Jonathan Kuminga, please? No, we can't do that. Second best player for the last month or two. Let's, they were interested in giving him Moody in the first. I would have been okay with that as a Bulls fan. The Bulls were not. I heard that they called about some other people. Dorian Finney-Smith didn't get to the finish line. So it wasn't like they were sitting on their hands and wasn't taking calls. They didn't want to overpay. And when you think about the Warriors, who are now on a 3-game win streak after a big game from big first quarter from Steph Curry and against the Pacers last night, they are tied with the Utah Jazz for the 10th spot. And guess what? The Jazz just sold 3 pieces of their top 8. Another year where I'm assuming that the Pacers are the Jazz are gonna fall a little bit. They got no small forward wingy players. It's like Larry Markkinen moved back up to the 3 like 2 years ago. I'm assuming that the Jazz are gonna fall. So that opens the door for the Rockets, who didn't do anything. So maybe not so much for the Rockets, but mostly for the Warriors to at least get in the play-in. And the Warriors have found something, at least a little bit, with the Kuminga, Wiggins, and Draymond Green starting 5. I wish they would have bulked up. And again, they were in conversations outside of the Caruso thing with Drummond coming to the team. And Drummond has been a monster, so he would have fit perfectly there. It's just having another body that gets rebounds and defends a little bit. Didn't get to the finish line there either. I would have loved for them to go get another big, but they didn't. They're going to be in the play-in. I'm pretty confident about that. And similar to with the Lakers, it's one of those teams that no matter who's healthy, I mean, as long as Steph Curry's healthy, it's going to be a team that people are not going to want to see. So I know Warriors fans really wanted them to make some deals, and I understand it, but it wasn't there. It just wasn't there. And the minutes of those 3, of Wiggins, Kuminga, and Draymond, might have saved the season to an extent. Now, them not making a trade, I feel pretty good about saying they're not a contender. I feel pretty damn good about that. But it might have saved the season in the sense that they will be competitive enough to get back into the play-in, maybe get into a playoff series, and maybe cause some havoc that way. Now, they got to hope that they don't get matched up against the Nuggets because they don't have the answer for that big fella. The Timberwolves, I think we talked about that in the last episode. What would happen in the Wolves-Warriors series? We're talking about a double big lineup when they don't really have 2 bigs. Now they have the veteran leadership of Curry and Draymond and stuff and all of the experience in the world in a series like that. But personnel for personnel, they don't match up well against those guys, and maybe that doesn't matter. But not doing anything was a surprise. But again, as I look at the market and I look at who was traded and who wasn't traded, I mean, we're talking about 17 total deals, and the top people again were PJ Washington and Buddy Hield. Like, I'm not tripping. A team, talk about PJ Washington, a team that I have conflicting feelings about, the Mavericks. Now, I will say this right now, Mavericks fans, you are significantly better on court today than you were yesterday. And sometimes that is all that matters. When you have a talent of Luka Doncic, sometimes that is all that really matters. Are we better today than we were yesterday? And the answer is objectively yes. Now, this is a team that have lost so many games this year due to injury. Kyrie Irving has missed half of the season. The list goes on and on of quality. Dante Exum has been out. Quality, real players missing time. And ultimately, right now, you are 29 and 23, 3-game win streak actively, a game and a half outside of top 6. Good. But the reason is conflicting because, again, I do love the Daniel Gafford fit to now that you have it, so you have no center minutes that aren't at least quality. Now Gafford is not no top 10 player of his position, but he's a quality player, and he's a backup to Derek Lively in most cases, who also has been injured a ton. I love the addition. PJ Washington, not the shooter that he gets a reputation for. I was looking at his numbers. His catch and shoot the entirety of his career has been about 34%. His best year is about 36% on catch and shoot threes. Not ideal for playing alongside Luka Doncic, but he's going to be playing alongside Luka Doncic. I'm sure he's going to not just the catch and shoot numbers, but just be more impactful in Dallas. Again, I love the pickups. The conflicting thing is they gave up a lot of the future. Remember at the top of the show, we were talking about with the New York Knicks, when you do these type of trades, when you go all in, you typically are giving up your future assets / future players, or one of the two. The Mavericks gave up all the future assets. People that don't remember, to bring in Grant Williams this offseason, 7 months ago, They traded a first-round pick swap to the Spurs that is 2030 to bring in Grant Williams. And to not get rid of Grant Williams, but to send Grant Williams on his way to get PJ Washington, they gave up a 2027 first-round pick. Now, again, I can understand you saying, we got Luka Doncic. I don't care about first-round picks. That's valid. But ultimately, in order to bring in PJ Washington, you gave up 2 first-round picks for PJ Washington? I don't love it. Especially considering a lot of these first-round picks, the 2027, the 2030, the 2029 that you gave out and other deals. That's after the Luka Doncic contract is up. Knock on wood, Dallas. I'm praying you keep Luka for an eternity. He follows Dirk's path. But knock on wood. If things ain't going perfectly and Luka say the deuces, we ain't really got no draft capital to build around. Now, I'm not saying you should live your life with that in the back of your mind. But it might be something to consider. You know, you gave up a 2024 first round pick to bring in Daniel Gafford. That's a backup player, but it wasn't your own first round pick. It was like the worst of the Thunder and this and this. It's not a pick that's going to hold too much value to you this season anyway. A lot of people are saying that this draft class is bun, so who cares, right? But I don't know. I'm not. Again, they are better today than they were yesterday. And sometimes that is all that matters. But I'm just a little bit afraid of the next big move that could be done. The next player that fits what you want to do. How do we bring him into Dallas? Or again, if Luka decides that he wants the deuces, what do we do? And Mavs fans, you're probably like, we don't give a damn about that, Kenny. We dancing in the street because we have 9 real NBA players finally. And I'm okay with that too now. Now, candidly, I have not watched a ton of Hornets games this season, so I'm not sure exactly what PJ has been on this season. That kind of takes me to my next one with the OKC Thunder bringing in Gordon Hayward, which is a surprise deal. Candidly, I have not watched a lot of Hornets. And the times I have watched the Hornets, guess who wasn't playing? But Gordo, based on reputation, and again, I saw a video the other day after the trade of people putting up a highlight reel, and it was a Barack Obama administration highlight reel with Gordon Hayward. Thon Maker was on the court guarding him on the switch. Thon Maker. Kobe Bean Bryant, may he rest his soul. He was on the court. Sometimes that's how long it's been since we've seen Gordon Hayward. But considering what you gave up with this trade man, Davis Bertans, is all that really matter. I love it. Expiring contract. If things don't go well, fine. We still got up to $36 million in cap next season before we have to pay J-Dub and we have to pay Chet Holmgren and so on and so forth. I really love this deal. The same thing I said earlier in the episode about the Knicks adding 2 connectors or 2 people that could create for themselves or create for others. Gordon Hayward fits that. 16, 5, and 5 is what he has been up to for the last 30 years, it feels like. Again, barring good health, this is a player that can close out real minutes for you, close out playoff games for you if Josh Giddey's not being guarded. Now, Gordon Hayward has not been a 3-point shooter, and a lot of my Gordon Hayward opinions are statistic based because I have not watched him much the last year and a half or so. Okay, but his shooting numbers have not been as good as maybe want him on catch and shoot and stuff. But I would trust him a lot of a hell more than I trust Josh Giddey. He works that mid-range area just like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I was looking at it, 55% of his shots come from the mid-range area so far this season. And again, having another guy that can swing it or can create for himself or create for others, it's going to go a very long way. I love Trey Mann as a player, but Trey Mann was not a player that was going to have an opportunity to really give you minutes. You have a plethora of guard wings on the team. He deserves to go to a place where he can play real minutes. And guess what, y'all? After these trades, I'm actually excited to watch the Hornets play basketball for about a week. I'm actually excited. Brandon Miller, phenomenal in the last month. Miles Bridges, he's been good. He's been really good, but I'm not giving him much more than that. And then when LaMelo's back from his injury, it's a team that might be somewhat fun. Trey Mann getting real minutes finally, 25 to 30 minutes a night, hopefully. I'm excited to watch them again for like a week or so, and then I'll go back to watching my highlights of Brandon Miller. That's one of the most underrated parts of a trade deadline is that we finally get to see players that we haven't seen really get a lot of minutes. You know, I'm excited to watch more Pistons basketball. You know, now some of these teams didn't do much, like the Wizards, the Spurs. I'll still just watch my Wemby. The Trailblazers holding on to Malcolm Brogdon. It's not anything too impressive. Killian Hayes got waived. And normally, it's not something I would even care about. I'm excited to see what team picks up Killian Hayes. And when he got waived, again, I was live streaming on Twitch, and people like, get ready to go back overseas, go back home to France and play in their league, or go to China and play in their league. I'm not confident that's the way it's going to go. I think as long as Killian Hayes wants to be in the NBA, he will get another opportunity. I went throughout the history of the last decade of all of the people that were drafted high in the lottery that flamed out. All of them. Dragan Bender, Josh Jackson, Chris Dunn, who's back, Dante Exum, who's back. All of these people got at least 3 different shots at the NBA. So Killian is going to get picked up by a team. And I'm hoping that it is the Spurs. That French connection. And then I'll watch more Spurs game. Because the Spurs are a team that have done a damn good job of taking players that cannot shoot for anything and turn them at least to a league average 3-point shooter. Maybe Killian is the next success story for them. Or maybe it's the Memphis Grizzlies, who just gave Gigi Jackson a full guarantee. Shout out to Gigi. I'm so happy for you, my boy. He will get another chance somewhere as long as he wants to. Now, if he wants to go back overseas, that's going to be an option for him as well. But there are going to be a team that's like, Killian is a guy that we're going to take a flyer on. Here's a minimum contract for the next month and see what we can do. What was funny, and this is me just getting to the drama of the NBA. I can't lie to you. As much as I love actual basketball, I love the drama of the association a lot more. 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes after Killian Hayes got waived, Jaden Ivey went onto Instagram and posted a picture of him, Cade, and some videos of them hooping together, just them together. And he put out a Bible verse that I didn't read, but it was a Bible verse. Now, timing is a bit weird there. I always thought about things like this. When you have a player that is so much worse than his peers, but are given an opportunity, like Killian Hayes started games over Jaden Ivey this season. Think about this. He started games over Jaden Ivey this season. I bet Jaden Ivey was looking at him across the locker room like, I don't know what they see in you. And the moment he gets right, 2 minutes after he gets waived, he popped his collar. And then he had another great game. Shout out to Jaden Ivey. I thought for a second, 2 months ago, you were going to be a Bull. Good thing they didn't. Good thing for them, they didn't make that decision. And we got some quickies here. Again, we're talking about a trade deadline that wasn't very active. Trades that I enjoyed, or a trade that I enjoyed, was Buddy Hield getting traded to Philly. This was a trade that I'm not surprised about whatsoever. I'll just say that. Marcus Morris, who's been waived. Furkan Korkmaz, who's been waived. And 3 seconds for Buddy Hield. And people are like, man, Buddy Hield only gets you 3 seconds. What is an expiring contract? I don't know what else you could have expected for Buddy Hield. And I like it for the 76ers. It gives them the opportunity to still stay flexible come this offseason. And they desperately need more 3-point shooting. I don't really know in a playoff series if those 2 players, Buddy Hield and Tyrese Maxey, can hold their own defensively. That's not something I'm thinking about in this moment in time. I'm just thinking about them staying pat and trying to stay above the play-in while Joel Embiid is out, because right now they have a 2.5 game lead over the Pacers, 3 game lead over the Heat, and the way they've been hooping without Joel Embiid, that's in jeopardy. And maybe Buddy Hield's 3-point shooting prowess, shout out to Walt Frazier, is enough to at least keep them afloat. If they play at a 500 team pace, they'll be okay. That has not been the case for the last 15 games without Joel Embiid. They've been dreadful. Next trade that was one of the most fun things about the deadline, Patrick Beverley breaking his own trade on the podcast. New media, man. New media. And I don't know who's in charge over there. I don't know if it's Pat or if it's Rowan themselves. I don't know if they have I know they have a full team, but I don't know who's making the decisions. But to hop on YouTube live 10 minutes after you got traded, what a great thing for the numbers. I was having my own live stream, and I went to their live stream because I wanted to see what Pat Bev was feeling about being traded, because he was kind of important in Philly. Now, Philly is also thinking that they're about to get Kyle Lowry, bring him home to Philadelphia. So that makes sense if that's the case. But Patrick Beverley had been one of the guys. Pat Bev is one of those dudes that will go to a blue-collar city and raise hell, and fans are going to fall in love. And I think that's what had happened in Philly, but they would rather have Kyle Lowry. And in 2024, I actually saw this happening, like real NBA discourse on who's been better, Patrick Beverley or Kyle Lowry this year. And you know what? It's somewhat valid of a conversation. Now, if we think about who Kyle Lowry is, traditionally, it's no conversation whatsoever. But the brother's almost 40-ish. Like he's getting up there in age. But they'd rather have the hometown hero come back, and I'm not mad at that. The Milwaukee Bucks get a point of attack defender, and now it's just going to be fun to see Dame and Patrick Beverley share court together after a decade of them hating each other. Even Pat Bev on his podcast said he gotta fix his relationship with Dame. And I was in Milwaukee yesterday for the game, and really enjoyed myself. Shout out to the Milwaukee Bucks. They showed me great hospitality, allowing me to sit courtside for a little bit, not for the full game, but to watch the warm-ups and stuff. They gave me a custom jersey. And for a second, I wanted to like troll and put the picture up of me holding a Bucks jersey after the Bulls did nothing and say, hey, somebody else wanted me as a fan. But I'm a Bulls diehard. But Pat Bev was saying, like, I might have to hop on a flight to Milwaukee right now. And I was like, oh my God, is Pat Bev about to pull the PJ Tucker? PJ Tucker got traded, and then 6 hours later, he was playing for the Clippers. Like, is he about to come to this game? He didn't end up making it. But I enjoy it for the Bucks. Obviously, Patrick Beverley is a better player than Cameron Payne. He's a better point of attack defender than Cameron Payne. But this doesn't fix the defensive stuff that we've seen over this season. It doesn't fix the 1-5 start under Doc Rivers, but it's another real NBA player. So it's like in my notes, I literally have the word sure. That's all the notes I have about this trade. It says sure. So that's the deadline, man. That's the deadline. Now, for the other trades that I didn't talk about, I think that they might be relatively insignificant. I think, like, I'm sure that's like why I can't talk about every single trade. But if you want me to talk about, I don't got it. So you let me know who are the winners and the losers of this NBA trade deadline. What do you agree or disagree with? I am going to bring in my guy Greg to give me his eye test hot takes. That's what it's called. So the Kenny Beecham podcast fandom, they know that you're a diehard Warriors fan. What is your take on your no deadline decisions?
I'm disappointed. I like the way they've been looking recently, but like you said earlier, they're not a contender. And when you have Steph Curry at the back end of his prime, you got to do everything you can, as you said in the earlier episode, to give yourself a chance. Mm-hmm. And right now, they really don't have a chance. So in my mind, you got to give up another pick, or you got to give up another player to get someone like a Dorian Finney-Smith, or even Mikal Bridges if you give up Kuminga and Moody. Mm-hmm. We'll get to my stuff in the eye test, but I'm not as high on Kuminga as a lot of Warriors fans. And because I'm such a Steph Curry fan, more so than a Warriors fan, I'm trying to maximize him and his career. I don't really care what happens after that. So I'm giving up everything.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm interested about the Jonathan Kuminga thing. So let's get to the eye test hot takes.
So let's start with the Kuminga thing. So Kuminga's ceiling is lower than most people think. I believe he's going to be a cross of a very poor man's Jaylen Brown and an Aaron Gordon.
I guess I'm not into the circles that you are in, especially a Warriors fandom. What do other people believe his ceiling could potentially be? Are they thinking all-star? Are they thinking superstar?
I think they think it's like not necessarily a Kawhi Leonard, but like in that vicinity of like he can be a primary scorer on a championship team and play both sides of the ball and be an all-NBA type of guy.
Okay, yeah, I would pump the brakes on that for sure. And I like Jonathan Kuminga's game. He's one of the few people that have been able to speak out about his minutes and then immediately get the minutes and an average 20. Like it's kind of insane. I've never watched Kuminga's game and thought that he would be a Kawhi Leonard-esque or even a superstar, a lead guy on a championship team. We're talking that's the top 3% of all of basketball. So I definitely don't see that. And honestly, the ceiling that you put him, a poor man's Jaylen Brown or Aaron Gordon, would be amazing. Honestly, I think that's a player that is really integral to any championship team. Because I do believe he has a ceiling to guard many positions across the court. I don't know if I believe in the jump shot for real. Like I know it's been about a month or so where he's been hitting it at a high clip. I don't know if I believe it just yet. I think I'm closer to you on this than them. But I might be still slightly higher than you at the same time.
So if that's his ceiling, and say he doesn't reach that ceiling for 2 more years, is it worth keeping him with Steph Curry if Steph's going to be 37, 38 by the time that hits?
No, but I also think that it would have to be the deal, the deal to bring in the top end talent, right? We're not trading them for, and I know you're not saying this either, but you're not trading them to add the 6th most important player on the championship team, because Jonathan Kuminga can be that. If you're packaging Kuminga, I think you're going for another all-star caliber talent guy. He'd be the centerpiece in that. Because I do believe that a lot of people would see what he has been doing over the last month or so and be like, okay, that's a guy that we could help build our new foundation if we're selling our star player, So I honestly would hope that the conversations in that front office are very fluid and not to think that anybody is untouchable outside of Steph Curry, but you never really know. This is like their first take of running an NBA team when you really think about it. So we don't really know where their priorities really lie just yet.
And yesterday in the post-game interview, Steph did say that he was in on the talks with Dunleavy and approved everything they did. Who knows if that's all true or not. And what I will say is I've lost all trust in Wiggins, but if he can play like he's been playing the last couple games, there's a chance. There's a chance.
Yeah, no, he's back to looking like not the all-star starter version or the NBA Finals version, but like just he looked like a real competent NBA player again. Which as of right now, when you compare it to 2 months ago, that's good enough at the moment, and maybe he could get back to the other ones.
And it's amazing. Like when you see him hitting shots, Clay hitting shots, it's amazing how different the Warriors look just based off just playing like they're supposed to play.
Yeah. Yeah. We get a normal Klay Thompson season. A lot of the stuff that we talk about around the Warriors, we don't talk about. He's just that important to their offense. I guess their defense too, but yeah.
All right, next one. No one should feel bad for Ben Simmons.
There's Ben Simmons truthers still?
I feel like you still see some stuff out there. I mean, again, maybe I'm running in the wrong circles, but I feel like you still see some stuff that's like, he's going through stuff. He's going to get it back. He's definitely lost a lot of the media attention.
Yep.
But, and this is kind of a me thing. I've been very, very anti Ben Simmons since he was in college. I think he's always been a fraud. I think he's always been arrogant. And to me, there's nothing that this dude has shown that shows that 1, he will ever change, or 2, that you should feel like he has any sort of self-awareness or remorse or feels any type of way about himself as a player or a person, when in fact, I think he should feel awful about how he's handled his career.
I'm going to push back a little bit on like that all NBA season of his. I think that was real. The defense that he provided for the 76ers, and I think this is the year before the legendary pass up of a dunk. I genuinely believed in that moment in time that he would end up being one of the top 15 players in basketball eventually. And I think he was going to that trajectory. But I feel you when you talk about not feeling bad for him. I mean, at the end of the day, some of the stuff it is brought on himself. Like obviously he can't control his back being hurt. He can't control this or that. But he did actively sabotage his team for 6 months. And that's something that is rare in NBA history. Like it's becoming somewhat more common nowadays, but Ben was like one of the first people to really do that. I honestly, when I said Ben Simmons truthers, I have a few on my other podcasts that are Ben Simmons truthers. Like he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And then I have not watched a ton of Nets, but I have been keeping tracks on Ben Simmons himself. It's hard for me to say that he'll get back to, let's say, 70% of the player that he was in his all NBA season, because he does not look at the basket. And he does not like to get fouled. And you are a 6'10 guard, so be it. Being afraid to be fouled is like one of the most detrimental things to a player of his size and his caliber. Imagine if Giannis was afraid to get fouled. This man's get called for 10-second violations regularly, but he's going to continue to add that pressure. And Ben Simmons, throughout the course of his career, it seems like the only time he really gets up is when he's super disrespected by a specific player. Rudy Gobert says something, I'm going to drop 40 on Rudy Gobert. And that's it. Like in a half court, and again, I've watched every single one of Ben Simmons' possessions since he's been back, and I'm actively watching the ones from last night because I was in Milwaukee. he doesn't create for himself. The times that he has scored is him as the roll man. And guess what he did? He didn't roll all the way to the basket. It's a little hook above the. I'm with you. I'll just say that.
There were tons of Philly fans that wanted to keep Simmons over Embiid. I mean, do you think if you asked Ben Simmons straight up right now, are you still a top 20 guy in the NBA? He would say yes.
I think he would.
I think he would too.
And you know what makes me think he would? Because every time he has a setback or injury, he drops a mixtape saying he's coming back.
And that's the stuff that really gets under my skin.
No, I really feel that. I really feel that.
All right, last one, and I'm sorry, these are pretty negative today, and I know the brand is more positive than this, so I'll try to spin it, mix it up. But watching the Spurs a lot, the Spurs guards don't quite realize that getting Wemby the ball and throwing him the lob on the break, hitting him in transition, rather than scoring themselves, is actually what's going to, one, boost their reputation and their just what people think of them around the league, and two, will get them paid because Wemby, one, will want to play with them because they get him the ball, and it just makes them look good. Like they'll get on highlights, but them trying to score is what's making them look like they have no self-awareness and no vision.
Yeah, there's a clip pre-draft of Devin Vassell on Instagram Live. I don't know if you've seen this, and he said, "Quit talking about the Wemby kid," or something like that in his Instagram Live. And then we had to play from maybe 2 weeks ago, where the play was drawn up for a Wemby lob on a game-winning shot attempt, and instead, Devin Vassell took a 32-foot three-point shot, heavily contested. And then when he was asked about it afterwards, he said that there was no one in front of him, so he took the shot that was open. But if you watch that footage, that's a heavily contested. And so many times, and Wemby, and this is why Wemby is my rookie of the year, and I think he's even better than what most people recognize, is because there's 4 to 5 times, and maybe I'm underselling it, where his teammates don't get him the ball when he should get the ball. That's an extra 8 to 10 points. We're talking about just him diving to the basket. We're talking about him beating his man, and he's 7'5", just throw the ball up. So I agree with you, but I also think that those players haven't had anything like this in their entire lifetime, right? You think about Devin Vassell as an NBA player, he's never really had a guy that's been significantly better than him. That is the new driver of the boat. Keldon Johnson, same situation. And these are people that also already got their extensions and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So like, you paid me $28 million annually. I think I deserve 18 to 19 shots per night because that's what you paid me for, right? When in reality, these people are supposed to be complementary to the big fella. And he's averaging 24 points per game, but him not having more than one teammate that can actively get him the ball when he needs it. So that's one of the reasons why when we were talking about the deadline, I was surprised they didn't do anything, considering there were playmaking guards on the market. Killian Hayes would get that man the ball. That's
100%.
Killian Hayes would.
Isn't it what you dream of, to be able to just throw the ball up as high as you can, have someone dunk it? Like, that's fun. That's to me is more fun than scoring a layup.
Yeah, and you know what? It opens the game up more for you, Devin and Keldon and so other people, because the man is going to see double teams. He's going to see triple teams, and that means that the rotation might not be great, or they're helping off you, and you'll just get more open looks. And honestly, they're the 5th youngest team in basketball. I think with time, it's going to get a lot better. But it definitely reminds me of when Darius Miles and them were like, LeBron, who? We already got an all-star. Like that's what it reminds me of.
It's also where I question Pop for, as historically, how great of a coach he is. Like, why is he not coaching these dudes?
Yeah, he's got to the point where I can't get there to criticize Pop more than early in the season saying like, why is Jeremy playing point guard? Like, and then eventually they stopped doing that. And then we saw Wemby's numbers get dramatically better the moment Jeremy Sohan left the starting lineup as the point guard. I'm just, I don't know if it's causation or just correlation, but it's something. So I still trust Pop's ability to coach things, but it's not looking amazing. I think that on paper, that team is a lot better than what let me look at their record really quick. A 10-42 record. I think they're a better team than 10-42. Honestly, they should
any team with Wemby should be better than 10-42.
Absolutely, but here they are. I'm gonna remind y'all at home to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Go over to Spotify, go over to Apple, and give us 5 stars, man. We want to continue to grow up those charts. We also dropped an episode last week where we had Atlanta Hawks' own Onyeka Okongwu on the episode. So if you missed that, we'll put that at the end card right now, so you can click on it. And I'll see y'all in a couple days. Peace.